hit it long, number one, and then it's kind of just a ball striking fest. You got to give yourself a lot of chances because scores are going to be low.
So the defending champ says hit the ball long at VidantaWorld, but clearly there's got to be more to it than that. That is what Golfbet Key Stats is here for. We're looking at all the big data of how Jake Knapp, Tony Finau, everybody's won here at Vidanta in the past. But we got to start, Benny Bets, with shots over 200 yards. That is how these guys are going to score.
Huge percentage of shots from outside 200 yards at VidantaWorld, which is well above the PGA Tour average. So if you're not going to score from those big long shots, you're going backwards, that's for sure. The winner over the last 3 years, almost half the time on average, they've been able to make birdie or better from their approaches outside 200 yards. Got to get it done. You got to get it done from distance. And look at that, 6th in birdie percentage outside 200 yards for the winners. Important stuff. If you're not getting it done, you're going backwards.
And that's what we're here to do on Key Stats, the PGA Tour's Golfbet brand. First time in 2025, we're greasing the wheels here, Benny Bets. We have course information, those little nuggets, strokes gained leaders at VidantaWorld, how you can make your picks comfortably with the most up-to-date information we can get from the PGA Tour database. Hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. So many fantastic stats. We heard Jake Knapp mention hitting the ball a very long way, but we mentioned there's more to it because when we talked to Jake Knapp earlier, it wasn't just hitting the ball long.
I mean, overall, you got to just, if you just bomb it and everything else, you still got to hit some good iron shots. You know, like number 3 is 500 and something yards long into the wind, so you're in like driver 4 irons. You still got to be able to hit some good iron shots, and in order to make birdies, you're just not going to make every 30-footer out there, so you got to be able to stick it close.
That's why ball striking is so paramount this week, Ben. And how about this stat you found? The 3 winners at VidantaWorld, ball striking so key.
100%. Like, again, that interview with the Jakester, the Napster, came right after he'd done an amazing range session where he was just absolutely striping the ball, but also using his irons as well to do just what he needed to do in this ball striking scenario. Look, the stat there doesn't lie. You know, first, and 6th, you really have to just be on key the entire way around this joint. If not, you're going to get left behind because the guys are going to go low, and you've got to give yourself more opportunities than others. And you do that by, well, you know, obviously 100% ball striking. The better you can do that, the more chances you're going to get.
Obviously, that means you're hitting the ball well off the tee and in the fairway. Nat mentioned not hitting it to 30 feet and making sure you're making your putt. You're making those inside 10 feet with ball striking. But another aspect to this, Ben, is those strokes gained off the tee, which kind of goes along with this entire thing. And when we looked this up earlier this week, everybody who has finished in the top 2 at VidantaWorld, here is where they were at in the field in strokes gained off the tee. 11th, 2nd, 18th, 1st, 17th, 12th, and 7th. Everybody who is in contention is at the top of the board, strokes gained off the tee. Now, if you don't know what strokes gained off the tee is, Ben, describe to the viewer what exactly that means at a pretty open place like this.
Well, again, it comes back to that distance. If you're smashing the ball further than anyone else off the tee, then you're gaining ground on those who don't, because your next shot, obviously, you're hitting it closer with scoreable clubs, with shorter clubs, etc. Here at VidantaWorld, the rough just isn't as penal as it is in other places. We've just come from Torrey Pines South, where if you just want to smash and gouge it, good luck. You might get buried in that deep rough, and you might be chopping out. Like we saw a number of occasions where guys got the ball sitting down in that rough and just had to chop it forward or just chop it out rather than have an attempt to go for the green. At VidantaWorld, just make hay, smash it, smash the cover off the ball. You might end up in rough that's barely going to affect what you do, especially with those scoreable clubs. So again, you want to gain shots on the field by getting your ball as far down there as you can, way ahead of the rest of the field. Accuracy not as big of a deal this week as it was last week.
So we love the bombers. And another aspect to this, which makes it even more paramount about hitting the ball far, is a couple of these course nuggets you're going to find at VidantaWorld. We have 2 of them. The first one is we looked at the 5 easiest holes on the course. They're all 4 the par 5s. Obviously, it makes sense. So you're hitting the ball, again, your approach shots outside of 200 yards, very big. In that drivable 7th hole, which basically plays like another par 5, Ben, those are, you know what I'm saying, off the tee, it's a par 5 essentially with those other 4 from about 250 to 290 yards. You have to score big on those 5 key holes.
Yeah, if you're not scoring on the par fives, you're being left behind. But that 7th is the easiest hole on the course the last 3 years. You have to be accurate with that shot. It's 300 yards or just under, as we said. It might move around slightly on the tee box, but it's around that number every day, and you have to have a crack at it. If you don't capitalize there, you'll get left behind. Simple as that. The winners absolutely dominated that hole, basically birdied it every day, and had eagle chances too on a number of occasions. If you don't give yourself that scenario, big trouble. Whereas, again, the par fives, yeah, we know most weeks par fives you've got to score, but it's paramount because second easiest, third easiest, fourth easiest, fifth easiest. Here, absolutely, you must take advantage. If you're making par on a par five, you've actually lost a shot to the field or close to it. And if you make a mistake, you've lost even more.
Yeah, and maybe even eagles are what you're actually gaining on the field when it comes to these par fives. Our second key nugget on the course, we called it surviving the the 10th hole, because that's playing by far the hardest hole on the course. And we looked at these winners, Ben, Jake Knapp and Tony Finau, how they did on the 10th hole the last 2 years.
Yeah, they obviously took care of it. They managed to survive. And Knapp, I think, was 1 over, whereas Tony Finau might have even been 1 under on that hole, which was impressive given that the scoring average, as you can see there, is 4.4. It is the one hole that really upset half this field or more than half the field. They just couldn't find a way to not make a mistake there. When you make mistakes there, again, when it's a birdie fest type week or when there's lots of birdies on offer, you have to survive the holes that matter. This is the one. It starts off. Remember, some guys that like first thing in the morning, starting off the 10th tee, that's brutal. That's the one hole that you have to worry about. Those guys can struggle. And even, look, it's a small thing, but live betting, if your guy, the guy you like for outright, is starting off the 10th on day one,
watch out.
Literally wait for one hole. One hole, and then maybe you jump on them.
So we have our course. We know who fits the mold at this kind of course. Now we want to look at current form versus history on a course. It's something we do every week, and obviously each week is different. With VidantaWorld, only 3 years of playing at this course, what we see here is in the white, it's players who have won, how they have done on that course in the past, and in the blue is how they did leading up before they won that year. It is very clear, Ben, that your course history doesn't really matter at Vidanta. When Tony Finau was blitzing the field 2 years ago with Jon Rahm, it was no wonder he was T2 and then won the following year. That means nothing to me. What does mean something to me is in the blue there. Both of these players were playing good enough leading up to that win. They weren't missing a bunch of cuts. They weren't barely finishing T45, T50. They were relatively in the mix leading up. So you want players who have shown some kind of form, not the best form, but some kind of form leading up.
I want to see a top 20 in your last 3 starts before you went on the PGA Tour, because the majority of winners last season were able to do that. And you see right here, Jake Knapp with a T3 coming in showed that he could, perform on that stage. And Tony Finau, it might have only been T19, but he was building to something before he got there. That is important. Seriously, go back over Torrey Pines, Pebble Beach, Phoenix. Have a look at these last 3 weeks or 4 weeks on tour. See a guy who's got a top 20 and get ready to pounce. Like one that comes to mind who's high up on the odds board, Rasmus Højgaard, right? He missed the cut last week, but prior to that, he was a contender in Phoenix. So he fits the mold. Here, the reason he struggled at Torrey Pines, well, when he bombed it, he ended up in that rough that we talked about. This time he gets to bomb it and not necessarily be in that much trouble. That's why you see him high on the odds board. He's got some current form, and the reason he struggled last week will not hurt him this week.
Now, his brother Nikolai Højgaard also way down on that odds board. I believe he's about 55 or 60 to 1 right now. Well down that board. Another thing we like to do here is look at who has gained the most strokes on the field at that course in the past. But we have one major caveat to tell the folks here. We are looking at a minimum of 2 starts, only 3 years here at this course, so it makes it tough. We had guys like Akshay Bhatia and Kurt Kitayama who we had to eliminate from this list because they played one time, did very well, and Jake Knapp, the defending champ. We took all of them off this list and only had players who played 2 or more times. Now, I don't want you to have to dissect these 5 players if you like them in specific. I just kind of want to look at each of these individual categories and what might be a red flag for someone like Steven Yeager, who might be a popular pick here. He's one of the favorites at 30-1, but you see he's losing strokes off the tee. How big of a deal is it to you if you don't have a guy who is tip-top condition off the tee, who's maybe mediocre, who's maybe right around average, hitting the ball off the tee?
The only thing that saves Stefan Jaeger right there is the big green number right under it on approach,
Yes.
right? If you can somehow save your poor tee shots here, again, because you won't get into too much danger, you're going to need to be impeccable, like ridiculously good on approach to make up for that. If he is able to do that, like that number suggests, not as big of a deal, but that's putting a lot of pressure on the approach game. That's putting a lot of pressure. If you're way back, like I think of someone else who might not be long, but is very accurate this week, say an Aaron Rye, who's like the most accurate on tour. I am a little concerned that his distance is not there. Yes, he's going to hit fairways. Yes, he's going to hit greens, but is he going to have enough 6, 8, 10 footers as the other guys have to really score? He'll be there or thereabouts, but to really win the thing, that's when the strokes gained off the tee number does hurt. And that's what I'm worried about. So yeah, I am worried for Stefan Jaeger there. That's a red number, just because it means that the pressure on the approach game is like needing perfection, because you're going to need so many chances to score. Look, we're around the green, not so much. Again, I don't think that the stuff around the green is too penal. However, if you don't get up and down, if you're making bogeys, you are going backwards super fast. So again, that's like the red is a red flag, right? Putting is important. We can say that every week you have to putt the ball in the hole and make birdies. But again, if you're not taking advantage of your 10 footers or your 12 footers this week, again, you'll be left behind. So I'm very intrigued. This is the first time you've shown me this list. But Patrick Rodgers,
he's gonna be popular. He's gonna be popular. We know he is gonna be highly bet by a lot of people. To think that he's 25-1 in an event is crazy. And you bring it up, so let me ask it this. Does a week like last week help or hurt someone like him? Because you know there's 2 kinds of players on tour, Ben. There's the guys who have what happened to Patrick Rodgers last week. They use it as fuel. They say, okay, I got close. I know I can do this. I'm a mongrel. I've got it in me. I can win a golf tournament. Or you can take it the exact other way and say, oh, what did I do wrong? Uh-oh, can I really contend in the back of my mind? Do those doubts start creeping in? Is Patrick Rodgers in that boat for you, or is he the kind of guy you're going to green light this week?
it's an interesting scenario. I greenlight Patrick Rodgers for a top 5, but not win.
Okay.
Basically, I struggle. He doesn't win. That's the scary thing for him. He gets in contention. I think it was 7 before this week. It was 7 top 3s on tour without winning.
Wow.
So 7 times second or third before Torrey, because when he's got there and had the chance, it's fallen away. Now, I felt a little bit sorry for him during most of Sunday at Torrey Pines, because he was getting lapped by a guy who was like 8 under through 10 holes at one point or something ridiculous.
You forgot about
Matt
him.
McNeely was just like taking it from him, right? And I was going to give him a pass. But when in the final wash-up, I looked and saw that he actually was 10 under with 8 holes to go.
Wow.
Patrick Rodgers still had a chance. He was still there, even though all the focus was on Mab and Ludwig coming back and whatever. Rodgers still had a chance to fire on that back 9 like others had, and he didn't do it. That gives me concern if you're looking for a winner, especially at 25-1 for him, right? He's a guy that if you're getting double those odds, sure. But 25-1, I may be adding him to some sort of parlay, like a top 10 parlay or something like that, to juice things up more than I am jumping on him to win, because he just hasn't proven he can win. So 25-1, while it was great, I'm going to give myself a rap. Picked Ludwig 25-1 pre-tournament last week.
We'll talk about it on the roundtable. Don't worry. You'll get your due on roundtable. Don't worry. But you go ahead.
I don't think it's there for him. 25-1 for Patrick Rodgers is not something I'm excited about.
Oh, you mentioned top 5, so I'm looking this up right now on FanDuel. Akshay's plus 360 for a top 5. Rasmus plus 450. Kitayama 500. Patrick Rodgers is plus 550. So I don't know if you feel like that's worth it. You might want to look at some of these top 10s for some of these stars. If you're looking at a best bet, a safe bet, some of these guys right around 2-1, 3-1, 4-1 on all these names that we're listing. Maybe top 10 might be something in your best bet category this week.
100. I'm going to look at those players that have performed and still get a little bit of a juicy number. Rogers' top 10 would be something that not only will I consider, but potentially, as I said, thinking that I could parlay that in with something else.
Yeah.
Have to go through all those key stats. But I think he should, put it this way, I think he should, given his current form, how he's playing and his confidence, he should be in the mix to win this golf tournament. I just personally am worried about him when it comes to that final round. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the lead with a round to go, or 1 or 2 back, and I'm still not really prepared to pull the trigger on him. I wish him all the best. I hope he smashes it out of the water and actually wins so we can forget about it. Remember, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about Maverick McNeely as this same guy.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so
he had the tournament stolen from him by Ludwig, basically. Didn't make birdie on 18, but, I mean, Ludwig stole it from him. He played well enough to win. Look at him now.
Correct. So that's the sort of thing. I think Mav now is going to be better in those situations because he's won. We need Patrick Rogers to win one, to get himself better in those situations. And if I'm going to be on him, it's not going to be at 25-1. That's all.
We've thrown a lot of information at you in the last 15 minutes. Just to kind of recap it all and bring it back in here on key stats. You're hitting the ball a long way off the tee, yes, but you're also ball striking in the fairway, getting it close, giving yourself chance after chance after chance. You're taking care of those par 5s. You're surviving the 10th hole. Your course history doesn't really mean much. You want some kind of current form. Ben likes the top 20s. What else am I missing here, Benny? Did I get it all?
I think you smashed it. That's what you got to do. Obviously, smash it at VidantaWorld. Smash it with your key stats research.